I'm Julia Nalivaiko and I was born in the USSR. When I was 6 years old, the Soviet Union collapsed. At age 12, I moved to the other side of the world. Ever since, I've been asked the same questions.
What's it like over there?
What's borscht?
Do they drink vodka like water?
Do bears roam the streets?
So now I'm going back to find the answers. Stretching as far as the eye can see, Moscow is Russia's capital, its largest city, and its economic and political hub. But at its origin, it was Russia's religious center. And after 70 years of communism, and in turn atheism, Moscow's most recognizable landmark is still a church. St. Basil's Cathedral, also known as the Cathedral of the Protection of the Most Holy Theotokos on the Moat, is one of over 300 churches in Moscow. That number was considerably higher before the revolution, when many churches were destroyed in an attempt to eliminate religion and create an atheist state. Today, in the wake of the Soviet collapse, orthodoxy is once again on the rise. But in the meantime, Russia has found a new religion: shopping. And for the worshippers, Moscow is their Mecca. After many years of shortages, Russians have embraced materialism with great gusto. Muscovites are among the world's top consumers of luxury goods, especially in the world of fashion. This relatively new trend has given birth to the cult of fashionistas and countless aspiring models. And we're better to see them in their natural habitat than at Grazia magazine's first anniversary party. The recently launched Russian version of the glossy gossip mag is thriving in this new Moscow, where the paparazzi are more TMZ than KGB. The room is filled with local celebrities, aspiring fashion designers, and other posers. This newly found celebrity culture has settled comfortably into daily life in Moscow. And singer Yelena Maximova is a veteran of the local social scene. How many of these are you usually attending per day?
2 or 3 per day. We must go there because there are a lot of cameras, TV, and a lot of photos in magazines. So Moscow is the center of all the entertainment life in Russia. A lot of Hollywood stars come here because Russians usually pay a lot of money.
What does it mean for people to be part of the social scene?
For a singer, it is work. For rich people, it's just to be known, to be seen in magazines. Russian people are just copying everything that is done in Europe and USA.
And since the West has celebrity stylists, so now does Russia. The post-Soviet fashion identity is still in its formative years, and stylist to the stars Vlad Lisovets is on a mission to introduce Russia to a more elegant fashion aesthetic.
Русские женщины устроены так, что привыкли одевать все самое красивое. К сожалению, наверное, 70 лет вот этой вот серой жизни, которая была в советские времена, и она все-таки оставила отпечаток. Теперь наши женщины могут позволить себе все, и они этим пользуются. И, наверное, еще один момент, что в России очень много красивых женщин на бывшем постсоветском пространстве, очень много красивых женщин, и они все-таки конкурируют между собой, а мужчин в России меньше. Соответственно, женщины хотят выглядеть более ярко, чтобы привлечь к себе внимание.
А это значит, что мужчинам совсем не надо стараться выглядеть хорошо?
Абсолютно, так и есть. Да, в России мужчины наверное, самое последнее место занимает внешний вид. Мужчины больше думают об удовольствии, о женщинах, и только в последний момент одеться красиво. Мы, в отличие от Европы, не научились еще носить одежду правильно, и носить ее, и приобретать ее правильно. Она есть, но для того, чтобы наши мужчины начали одеваться хорошо, должно пройти время. Мы посмотрим на Запад, мы чуть-чуть полистаем журналы, и рано или поздно, я надеюсь, что все-таки в нашей стране тоже мужчины будут выглядеть элегантно. Но опять вернемся, что не стараются, потому что женщин много. Любой мужчина в нашей стране востребован.
Even in wealthy Moscow, there is still a discrepancy between average salaries and the cost of quality garments, which leads most people to shop for cheap imports. Так как цена одежды настолько выше в России по сравнению с зарплатой,
Да.
как люди могут себе позволить одеваться красиво и одеваться качественно?
Но, вы знаете, настолько русский народ настолько любит одеваться и покупать, украшать себя, что люди иногда жертвуют какими-то, может быть, необходимыми вещами, но предпочитают купить себе новую рубашку или новые джинсы.
Wondering what I'd give up for a new outfit, I leave Vlad to his fans and meet Brazilian singer Gabriela. She left her native Brazil for a new life in Moscow, which has led her to reassess some stereotypes.
Когда я сюда приехала, мои друзья, Габриэла, что ты будешь делать там? Там холодно, люди типа холодно, агрессивно, никого не улыбается, все закрыто. И я вижу, что это по-другому, это неправда, как мои друзья сказали раньше. Когда ты знаешь друг от друга, ты понимаешь, они очень открыты, они улыбаются, они играют, они как другие в всем мире.
Russia's frosty reputation comes as no surprise, given its 70 years in hiding behind the Iron Curtain. To the rest of the world, the Soviet Union was an enigmatic superpower, and remnants of that formidable aura are present to this day. But the Soviet Union did have some benefits, and among its most valuable achievements was the development of infrastructure. Operating since 1935, the Moscow Metro remains one of the greatest and busiest subway systems in the world. The sheer scale of it will blow your mind. Its stations were designed as the palaces of the people and embodied the radiant future of the Soviet Union. The Union, along with its promised future, has ceased to exist, but the underground communist paradise remains. Making use of the country's extensive rail network, I make my way out of the capital and into real Russia. I arrive in the urban settlement of Nakhabino in the Moscow region. I'm here to visit family friend Mikhail. Now in his 80s, he's witnessed the rise and fall of the Soviet Union firsthand.
За вашу жизнь как изменилась страна? Какие перемены вы видели?
Ну, перемены коренные, конечно. То есть мы в свое время строили коммунизм, значит, обещали светлое будущее коммунистическое. Получилось капитализм со звериным лицом. То есть всеми богатствами завладели олигархи, так называемые, газ, нефть, недра. А народу что остается?
Было ли время во время коммунизма, когда все было действительно светло и хорошо?
В прошлые времена, конечно, и пенсия была, на которую можно худо-бедно существовать. А сейчас пенсионеры, получающие мизерную пенсию, не могут себе позволить питаться достаточно хорошо. Ну, посмотрим, некоторые старушки приходят, копейки считают. Дайте мне там хлеба и пакет там, скажем, кефира или молока. Еле-еле концы с концами можно сводить.
Luckily, Mikhail is managing to make ends meet due to his military career. He was a tank commander in the Soviet army and served in Hungary during the 1956 revolution.
После увольнения из армии я еще примерно 20 лет работал в гражданской организации. И, было принято решение еще гражданскую пенсию назначить. Вот. Так что мне 2 пенсии вполне достаточно для нормального существования.
The 2 pensions still only afford Mikhail a modest existence, with the occasional treat for special occasions, like caviar and a bottle of Crimean sparkling wine. Mikhail is one of Russia's luckier pensioners, and we toast to his good fortune. Later on, we head out to Mikhail's dacha. Another Soviet legacy, the dacha is a block of land whose primary purpose was home cultivation. But for Mikhail, his dacha is much more than that.
Я когда прихожу, тут просто душой и телом отдыхаю. Вот другое дело сидеть там в квартире, в каменных джунглях. И другое дело здесь.
Once the majority of the USSR's population was settled into urban apartments, the Soviet government found itself unable to meet the demand for fresh fruit and vegetables. The solution was to lease the dacha land plots to the people, allowing them to grow their own food. When the government authorised the building of basic shacks on these plots, the dacha evolved into a summer holiday home and became an integral part of life in the Soviet bloc. These days, dachas are privately owned and come in all shapes and sizes, restricted only by their owners' imaginations and bank accounts. I visit a more modern dacha on the outskirts of Moscow, owned by gardener extraordinaire Nina Akimova.
В выходные дни Москва выезжает на дачу, Москва пустеет. У нас очень такой напряженный ритм жизни в Москве. У нас огромный мегаполис, и поэтому, конечно, все на бегу и все на ходу. И вот где-то хочется все-таки воссоединиться с природой, поставить стол и самовар или обед обычный воскресный, отдохнуть, пообщаться, что-то вырастить, получить удовольствие.
One of the greatest dacha pleasures is picking fruit and berries straight from the garden. And today, I'm in Bloc.
Дача в России не только как отдых, это еще и кормилица, на самом деле, у многих. До сих пор причем. Россия всегда жила как-то непросто. И всегда были какие-то трудные годы. И люди выращивали то, что можно вырастить собственными руками. Это как в помощь в бюджет семьи. В регионах более сложные вообще люди выживают. Там достаточно высокая безработица, например, и зарплаты не такие, как в Москве, высокие. В Москве уже у многих дача – это место отдыха. А в регионах это все-таки еще место, где люди что-то выращивают для того, чтобы выжить.
Whether for work or relaxation, the dacha is truly a national institution. Even for the relatively wealthy Muscovites, the dacha visits have become a ritual, a part of the national psyche.
Люди выращивают какие-то плоды своего труда, и это подспорье, и, так сказать, к столу съесть то, что выращено собственными руками. Это вообще уже носит такой характер какой-то не столько даже увлечения и выживаемости, это все вместе. Это вот как какой-то синтез.
Before heading back to Moscow, I make a pit stop in the historic town of Suzdal. Located northeast of Moscow, Suzdal is the most visited town on the Golden Ring, a collection of cities which played an important role in the formation of the Russian state. One of the oldest towns in Russia, it was once an important religious center, and its countless churches are its main attraction. Suzdal's ancient Russian architecture and its picturesque landscape have inspired many a folk artist. Everything here looks like it was plucked from a Russian fairy tale. The wooden huts, the horse and carriage, the happily ever after, and even the roaming bears. And if all of this is looking a little commercial, that's because it is. Russia's finally starting to shake its bear-roaming, bribe-extorting, bureaucracy-ridden image, and tourism is starting to pick up. Moscow's popular Old Arbat Street, adorned with some familiar faces, is lined with souvenir shops doing a roaring trade. And that's great news for a country that's still finding its capitalist feet. After decades under communist rule, a sudden and unexpected switch to capitalism was no easy transition. The country needed business experts to help guide it through the difficult post-Soviet years. Marie is a small business trainer who's worked throughout the former Soviet Union for over 20 years.
In the early 90s, literally overnight, the future that so many people had been planning just sort of evaporated. People who had been training for a certain type of job in a certain type of factory, suddenly that whole future was gone. And naturally people had to go out and figure out how to make a living. Most of them didn't know anything about business. They had been growing up in this system they thought that was going to exist forever. And then overnight they had to reprofile themselves. I worked with artists who had been trained as chemists and suddenly took up souvenir making or something like this. They completely went into completely different areas.
One of these people was Colombian-born flower shop owner Luis. He originally came to Russia to be a doctor, but found himself searching for better opportunities after the Soviet fall. Having started his new enterprise in the early 90s, he's been a close witness to the transformation of Russia's business mentality.
Это было, да, когда ты ходишь в магазин, все читают книги, не обращают внимания на покупателя. Новое поколение уже смотрит немножко жизни по-другому. И сейчас, на самом деле, конкуренция очень большая, потому сейчас только хорошее внимание и сервис клиента. Вот один пример – это Макдональдс, который сегодня уже очень много ресторанов. И поскольку он был первый, сейчас можем сказать, что он развился как грибы. Он привез новинку, и люди подсели на это дело, и не было конкуренции. А сейчас все смотрят, как надо действительно работать, как надо сделать так, чтобы свой магазин или своя фирма лучше работала и больше продавала, да. И сейчас в мире конкуренции это то, что двигает мир, да.
But moving forward in business is no easy task in Russia. In addition to the usual pitfalls of private enterprise, Russian entrepreneurs have another obstacle to overcome.
Small businesses are what keep society kind of going. You think of all your little restaurants, all your little service places, and taxis and everything else. That all keeps everybody going. And there was money in those places. When the rest of the system was drying up, they would become a place where authorities would look for money or something like that. So it was they were always under a lot of scrutiny.
Is it possible to run a business without ever paying a bribe?
I believe yes, because I've seen businesses that have done it, and I know some people won't believe it, but it can be done.
Не обязательно можно назвать коррупция это конверт с деньгами, да, то есть ты можешь маленький подарок, где внимание от фирмы, допустим, бизнесмен должен сделать так, что маленький презент, маленький комплимент, там, в разных инстанциях, да, и это приветствуется. Если ты это не знаешь, этот закон, тогда у тебя двери открыты, скажем так.
Indeed, the doors of business are now wide open, but they're open further for some than for others. The post-Soviet years saw the emergence of a new breed of Russian tycoon, the oligarch. This businessman snapped up the majority of Russia's assets during its privatization, and in the process acquired vast sums of money very quickly, leaving everyone else behind. This level of inequality hasn't been seen since Russia's Tsarist era.
In the Soviet era times, we had no poor and rich. Everyone was poor close to the middle, or was a middle class people close to the poor. For this very moment, we have enormous rich people. For Moscow, Lamborghini and Ferrari and Bugatti is not something strange. You can see it almost on every day on every street.
Moscow is now home to more billionaires than any other city in the world. But the wealthy class is only a small percentage of Russia's population. The gap between rich and poor continues to grow, and millions of people like Alexander are finding themselves on the wrong side of the gap.
The average person cannot buy a car like me. I can buy a computer, but I cannot buy a motorbike, for example, even if I need it. I cannot buy meat every time because it's rather expensive for me.
So everyday life is always limited.
Absolutely. I cannot let myself what I want.
Alexander is a university graduate with a young family. Like the majority of Russia's population, he lives in a tiny Soviet-era apartment in the so-called sleeping suburbs on the city's outskirts. While he isn't living in poverty by Russian standards, Moscow's conspicuous consumption is a daily reminder of his less fortunate circumstances. But without connections, he knows his prospects are limited.
Sometimes I think if someone would give the bribe for me, if it's a very hard question, if I take it or not. It's a kind of, closed circle. Everyone in the circle in Russia. And if you come once, it's extremely hard to go out. I'm trying not to start it.
Russia ranks as one of the most corrupt countries in the world. But after 2 decades of amassing and protecting wealth by any means necessary, the tide is starting to turn.
Now here it's going through a bit of a re-evaluation. We've had all this period of time, we've got all the toys and we've made this much progress. Now what?
Now the new generation is starting to think outside the post-Soviet square and establishing a different way of doing business. I visit Dom na Dereve, or the Tree House, a kind of social club that operates on donations.
It's not a cafe, because in cafe you have to pay, and here you just have to leave how much you want money, and here are always people who will meet you, and it's really just like they come and they are guests, and well, we're always glad to see them.
Owner Ivan is the mastermind behind the project, which has been a resounding success against all odds. Russia is not famous for working on an honor system. Yes. So how did you know that it would work?
I did not know. Nobody believed me that it would work. Everyone thought that we won't survive for months.
What gave you the confidence to open a place like this?
I was sure that I could do it, because you should always make filtration of people. There is no alcohol here, and so people who want just to get drunk and find some girlfriend for an evening, they won't come here. And also people who have some aims in their life to be good human beings.
To live a good life.
Yes.
In Moscow, we have a lot of noises, a lot of actions, and here just like a place of calm.
Is there anywhere else in Moscow where you could find something like this?
Well, actually, it's a fun fact, but there is no such places at all. When I found this place, I said, oh God, thank you, I found Dom na Dereve, because it was maybe the first experience when I actually met people with which I want to interact,
And how often are you here?
Every day, I guess.
What do you think attracts people here? Why do they come?
I think they come because they don't have to wear masks here. As they come to some coffee, your table, it's your place and nothing else. I ask people to be a part of this project. It's not only the place where you come, someone gives you a tea and then you go away. It's everyone who comes here, they join this process, they could change something here, and so they feel like it's their home too, and so they are interested in keeping it alive.
And do you think that a project like this is slowly influencing the way that society is working?
Yeah, I think that's one of the aims of this place, to change this situation in Russia where everyone wants something for free and not paying for everything.
While the rest of Moscow embraces capitalism with open wallets, Ivan and his treehouse dwellers see a different future for themselves. As the first generation to grow up outside of communism, it's ironic that they're returning to socialist ideals of their own free will. And this time, they just might get it right.